every site on the internet has some sort of purpose, and that purpose is to sell something. It may be selling a product, it may be getting a new sign up, or for charity websites it may be even raising some funding. But every website needs to serve some purpose. And if you design a beautiful website, like you typically see nice flash intros where you wait for 5-10 minutes just to get to the home page, that is a defeat of the, that entirely defeats the purpose of having the website in the first place. So I'll be talking about strategies on how to increase sales and conversions. It's a long presentation, so I'll quickly want to flip through different slides. So there are 7 tips that I'm going to share. The first tip is that there are 3 kinds of visitors on the web, and I call them 3 musketeers. The first kind of visitor is the buyer. So this sort of visitor will come onto your website and he has made his mind that he wants to buy a product. So no matter how difficult you have made the experience, he'll go out of his way to buy your particular product or whatever the site wants to achieve. It may be because his boss has instructed him to buy that product, or he has heard something great about your product. It's just like if Apple has a store at the other end of the city, you will go to that end just to buy Apple's product. But the second kind of visitor is called a researcher. He typically has a pain point. He knows that he wants to solve that pain point, but he doesn't yet know what the solution is going to look like. So typically he'll have 3 or 4 tabs opened on his website of different competitors, and he'll research, compare, and then decide which solution is going to go forward well. And the third kind of visitor that you find on website, it's called window shopper. So he's never going to buy anything from your website. He's just there to hang out, see stuff, and probably he's a competitor of yours, probably he's there for joining your startup, looking for career space, or probably he's just stumbled it because someone tweeted about you, but he's not going to buy your product. So your website should serve one purpose, so you should ignore these kind of visitors. You should ignore the people who have made up their mind that they need to buy something from the product, and you should ignore visitors who are just there for window shopping, because they'll buy anywhere. She probably won't buy anything from your site. Next thing. That's because any website or any design that needs to serve only one purpose, and you need to decide what purpose that will be. There's a popular saying, if you try to be everything to everyone, you won't be anything to anyone. So you need to decide only one thing and base your design completely on that point of thing. And according to my experience of observing lots of different sites increasing conversion, it is always good to focus on the buyer. It's always good to focus on the researcher. So your site should be made in such a way that you convince researcher to become a buyer. And that's the sweet point of increasing conversions. Because as I said, the people who want to buy, they will buy anyway. So you don't have to do anything extra for that. And people who don't want to buy, they won't buy anyway. So focus should be to convince people who are there to research on your site, to convert them into the buyer. And you typically do this by removing doubts and answering questions. This is the second tip I have. The biggest enemy of your conversions and sales online is the back button. So people today are really distracted. They'll have Twitter open, they'll have Skype open, they'll have IM open, and they're on your site just for 5 seconds. They'll see, do I want this? If don't, they'll simply hit the back button and go to the second Google search result and buy their product. Theirs is better converting. So you should assume that your visitors have really short attention spans, and if your sales page is something like this, or even your website, as I said, every website is a sales page according to me, no matter if it's just an informational page. If your sales page is like this with lots of different calls to action, at the left you are saying sign up for my product, at the right you are saying sign up for the newsletter, and at the bottom you are saying, hey, don't sign up but just watch our product. So you are trying to do too many things. So if your sales page is like this, you will be overwhelming your visitors. So they'll end up spending most of the time figuring out what to do instead of doing what you want them to do. So the best idea is to have only single call to action visible at one point. So your page may have multiple call to action, but it's the job of a designer to make sure that at one point of time visitor is only focusing on one call to action. So you may have second call to action right at the bottom, but if the visitor is on the site he is visiting the site, and if you have multiple call to actions, you are going to lose it. At every time on the site, you should only have one call to action visible on the page. It may be add to cart, it may be watch a video, but you should make sure that visitor knows what he is going to do. You should not put strain on his brain on figuring out what he wants to do. So I'll have some examples. For example, this is a website of a popular CMS called Joomla. You can see that they have 3 calls to actions here. They'll have try Joomla, they'll have learn and extend Joomla, they'll have download Joomla. Now imagine you are researching different CMSs to install and you come on this page. You will think for at least 10 seconds what I am going to do, whether I want to try Joomla, whether I want to download or blah blah blah. So it's quite confusing. The 3 call to actions have equal importance given by the designer. So it's not clear what he wants me to do. But the second example, it's the WordPress site. You can see how clear they have made that they want me to download WordPress first. So they'll have a blue call to action, download WordPress, and even the download link in the top navigation bar is highlighted. So it's really beautiful examples of having your priorities straight. They could have highlighted the extend button here, the dock button here, green, blue, red, all different colors. So you could have probably hit the back button and write some different CMS. So this is a really good example. The third tip I have is that people don't write reading stuff on the internet, typically on the sales page. So if you have a blog, you expect people to read. But if you are there to sell something, to get registrations, or to do any other kind of goal, you can't really afford to have a lot of text on your page, because it reminds them of studying for exams, and people hate that. And this is the actual statistic that 50 milliseconds. So there is one research called Attention Web Designers. You have 50 milliseconds to make a good first impression. So you can imagine what short time frame is it. 50 milliseconds, it goes like this. So if you have lots of text, people are just going to hit the back button and go to the second step, because they want to understand intuitively what you are saying. They don't want to go through heaps and heaps of text just to understand what's your value proposition. So my suggestion would be to reduce the amount of text on your page and instead use a good balance of visuals. So people understand visuals really well. So I've seen lots of pages that want to sell something and they'll have lots of text. You can even imagine yourself buying for a particular product on the web. You would typically not want to read lots of text, but if you have visuals from different angles of that product and even guarantees for that product in terms of visuals and not just writing text, that will make a lot of impact. Again, I have an example. For example, this is a website of a product called Clone Drive. You can see there's lots of text on this site. First it talks about what Clone Drive is, then it gives bullet point for features, then compatibilities, blah blah blah. So if you have 1 hour free or 2 hours free and you can afford to read through all this stuff, you're probably going to do it. But most people who want to solve their pain point right now in next 10 seconds, they won't read through this stuff. Instead, what they'll do, they'll simply come on the page, understand it, absorb it, and then do the action that they want. So this is a really good example of the Skype homepage where they talk about the value proposition and they give a subheading, they'll have visuals, they have hidden more. If you can see at the bottom, they have small call to action points. So if you click on these points, it will expand into text. They have hidden lots of text by default and instead presented in a really visual manner that you can absorb in the first glance and won't get overwhelmed. It also has a good example of having a good call to action. And there is a fourth tip I have. It's about having really good headlines on the pages, because headlines matter a lot. Headlines is the first thing that people see, and typically I see many web pages making the mistake of having welcome to John's Pizza or welcome to blah blah blah. So it doesn't really convey anything. I'm on the page, so I'm already welcome, right? Why do you need to welcome me explicitly? It may seem naive that headlines are important, but I have seen hundreds of A/B tests, and every time you do a change in headline, it impacts conversion rate in one manner or the other. So headlines are important. And it's not just based out of my intuition, but actually research proves that people look at the top part and they spot for headlines whether they can see what the site is about. So this is a real heat map. Heat map is the overlay, so you can see different areas of red and yellow. Brighter a spot is, it means people have people have seen that spot on the page for a lot more period. So the red spots have the highest concentration of visitors' attention, and the green ones are a little low, and the rest ones have no attention at all. So people see at the top, they'll first see the logo, and then they'll see what the site is about by reading the headline. So headline here talks about find locally sourced tools and cycles or anything. So it's really concise and crisp. What this site does, it helps you find local tools. That's all. They could have written that welcome to Tom's tools. It would not have really given much information. What makes a good headline? According to me, concreteness makes a good headline. As I already said, avoid using welcome to XYZ as a headline, and also avoid making grand claims in your headlines, because I've seen lots of startups saying that we have changed XYZ forever. For example, we have changed the social media forever. If you see, it doesn't really talk about your product. It talks about what it's going to do, right? And it's making a bold claim. If I'm on this site, I don't know your background. I want to understand what you do and not really what claims you are making. So a lot of sites would do that. We have changed how cars are purchased. We have changed. We are the social media